Yo, what's good with y'all, man? Today, man, we back again with another video, man. And I've been going for like what, 2 weeks, something like that. I've been going for 2 weeks. Oh, and hope y'all enjoyed a good Thanksgiving holiday. But today we're gonna be reacting to three true KFC animated horror stories. You know what I'm saying? Check it out.
I can't imagine most people have enthralling dinners under the roof of a KFC. But I, for one, remember dining there far more times than the average person. It used to be something my parents would do for me and my siblings back in the day. It wasn't enough for them to just bring it home. They wanted it to be more than just takeout. A family outing, they would always say. That said, I couldn't tell you I hated the place until the last time I went, only a few weeks ago. I was just about to move out of my parents' house, and they had convinced me to go with them to KFC one last time before I take a flight or whatever. It was purely nostalgic. I don't think any one of us still cared for the food there. It's different.
Why are you eating like that?
Anyways, my parents and I were just minding our business in the dining room of the KFC, chewing on regrettable numbers of questionable pieces of fried chicken in complete silence. My dad had just excused himself to the restroom after I tried to break the ice by asking what him and my mom would do after I left home. That's when this man barged in. A man that looked exactly like the Colonel of Kentucky Fried fame. But it couldn't be him. The real Colonel was long dead. Everyone in the building, the customers and the employees, all turned their heads at this guy. Well, a mighty fine Friday afternoon to y'all. I'm Colonel Sanders. Right as he started speaking,
Is that a burger?
I think the majority of us
I know
dropped
KFC
our
does
guard.
not have a burger.
By
That
that
like a
point,
chicken
everyone had
sandwich.
seen the new commercials
That
for
look like a
KFC
McDonald's
with that
cheeseburger.
weird-looking spokesman/character person. And this guy nailed the act. It seemed obvious that this was some sort of corporate PR stunt, complete with an actor for the mascot and a room full of real, unwilling customers. For the most part, though, people just shrugged and went back to eating idly as the Colonel continued. I care indubitably for the quality of my establishments, which is why I'll be performing a full top-down inspection of this franchise today for all of you wonderful folks. Yes, managers, go check for a special message on your computers. The employees seemed to believe the guy too, at least for the moment, so the rest of us went along with it. I was just hoping we weren't being filmed by some hidden camera crew. Though my mother and I went on pretending to talk to each other, we were watching the Colonel from the corner of our eyes. He'd started his inspection in the dining room, walking up to all the tables and asking each of the customers, "How was your food, sir? The staff treat you well? Everything to your liking?" But each time, with every customer, at the end of his questions, he'd lean over the table and stare unflinchingly down into their eyes and ask, "Tell me, is it finger-licking good?" Most of the responses were a short, "Yeah, sure," or an, "I think we're done here." The Colonel would then hover over them for a few seconds while smirking. He then did the strangest thing. He started licking his own fingers.
Oh no.
Slowly, people started to become a little
Oh
more
my.
aware of him. The scene was weird as he would stare directly into customers' eyes while doing this action. I just hoped that he wouldn't visit our table. With that being said, he scurried over to us as though he could read my mind. "Well, how nice to see a young man repay his mother with a nice dinner." He spoke to both of us, but he only looked at me. And by that I mean, he didn't blink, twitch, or glance away even a little bit. "You're a fine young man, ain't you, boy?" I started trembling. I knew this dinner was going to be tense, but I hadn't thought I'd be put on the spot quite like this. Thank you, sir." No. Thank you for dining here, son. How's your fried chicken? Tell me.
Bro,
Is it up to
sir,
your standards?
can I get
I
some
trust
space?
you
You too close.
My eyes darted around
heard of 6
looking
feet?
for a response, a sign from my mom, or to see my dad appear from the restroom. But everything seemed frozen. Very suddenly, the Colonel fell to his knees beside me, reaching for my hands. Tell me now, boy, is it finger-licking good?
What the?
He kept leaning in towards me with his mouth hanging open, staring at my fingers, like he himself was about to lick the crumbs off of them to prove it. That's when my dad finally got off the toilet and came back to his family. He shouted, "Hey, weirdo!" He then yanked that wacko away from me faster than I could even react. The Colonel tumbled to the greasy floor of the dining room. You trying to propose to my son, punk? Get out of here before I make you wish I was a cop. Whoever that guy was, he wasn't official KFC staff, but he was definitely a wimp. He didn't put up any sort of fight after my dad threw him. He just rushed to his feet, laughed at us for a moment, then ran out the door. Come on, Margaret. We're getting out of here. We all got up and left the table. And I think that'll be the last time I ever stepped foot within 100 feet of a KFC. Later that weekend, my dad caught the news from the local channel which stated, the guy who impersonated the Colonel had gotten arrested the night after we saw him. Reports say he disguised himself as the mascot to get into close proximity with customers to harass them. He then took it a step further by grabbing their greasy fingers and biting them off. He would flee the scene immediately after and hit up at least 5 locations before getting caught by the police. Several people were missing fingers from that one spree. I was stunned to think just how close I'd gotten to becoming an unfortunate victim of that weirdo's hunt for greasy fingers. And to this day, I get queasy whenever I see fried chicken.
No, it's crazy, man.
I was a high school graduate that recently got hired for full-time work at KFC. We were the biggest chicken venue around town, as places like Popeyes weren't as big of a franchise at the time. Our hours of operations were usually 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., sometimes 12 p.m. for close if it was the weekend.
Okay.
The job came second nature to me. It was always clock in, clean up, fry the chicken, and of course assist any customers at the cashier. There was one memorable time when I was on my way to work and encountered a homeless man that literally dressed up as the Colonel. I was initially a little skeptical that he was homeless from his fancy attire, but from the rumors circulating from the other employees, he had recently started panhandling around the area for the past several weeks. As I made my way towards the front door, the Colonel raises his plastic cup at me and says, "Me lad, spare an old fella some change?" "Sir, I only make minimum wage." "If it wasn't for me, KFC wouldn't exist, kid. At least spare me some leftover chicken during your lunch break, okay? Get a job, old man." The first initial weeks of the job were swell, but things took a sudden turn for the worst. We had started running low on chicken, and my boss began to point the finger at me. He assumed I had been taking out chicken after my shift was done, but I assured him it wasn't me. This began happening on multiple occasions where large batches of chicken suddenly started disappearing. It had come to a point where my boss began to threaten my job. I pleaded with my boss to investigate the day shift employees, but it was impossible for them to be the culprits as he supervised them during that shift. "Stop eating my chicken, kid!" "Sir, it's not me. I bring my own lunch. If any more chicken goes missing in this kitchen, you're fired. You hear me?" "Yes, sir." It was finally that time again.
Not bad.
The night shift. Or should I say, my potential last shift at KFC. My pride and ego wouldn't allow me to accept the fact that I was being falsely accused. So I remained at the front counter, while occasionally looking behind my shoulder every 5 minutes or so. The time was roughly 11:50 p.m. on a Friday. I was just about to wrap up another successful shift until I heard a loud thud coming from the kitchen area. I began to cautiously walk to the back and saw no sign of anyone. No raccoons, no intruders, just the standard kitchen appliances with the drive-through window securely locked in place. That's when I heard a sound coming from the stock room where we kept all our inventory. I could hear the sound of vigorous chewing as I approached the door. I knew someone had to be in there eating all our
Bro.
fried chicken. Was this going to be the day I finally catch the culprit in the act? I placed my hand on the door handle and opened the door
Told
in one
you.
swift
Why
motion,
is he?
unveiling the same colonel I had
No.
seen before, dousing his face with fried chicken.
Well,
My
he's going
suspicions
crazy.
were
That man
accurate.
smashing.
The reason for all the missing chicken stood there before me. How the hell did you get in here? Well, I couldn't resist. Y'all make a big enough batch to feed the whole
Hey,
town,
look
might
at
I
his
say.
stomach.
It was you. You were the one that was eating our chicken the whole time. How could I not? It's so finger-licking good. Ah! I slammed the door shut, making sure to lock it so I didn't have to get physical with the colonel. He then started violently punching the door with his bare
he's mad
fist as I
now.
stood back in awe, not knowing whether I should call the cops or run the hell out of there. Open
Call
the
the
door,
cops.
or I'm gonna show you a new meaning of finger-licking good, kid. Leave it alone before I call the cops. I sprinted towards the front counter,
Well, that
arming
line never
myself
gets
with a
old,
knife from
man.
the kitchen. I began dialing 911 while trying to explain to the operator the bizarre situation I was in.
Thank you.
After a long 10 to 15 strenuous minutes, the police finally showed face. I began directing them to the stockroom where I had initially trapped the man. A group of armed policemen rammed their way through the door only to see no sign of the colonel. What we then discovered was that there was a panel on the ceiling that had been removed,
He escaped
thus
that
allowing
fast.
access for any culprit to enter and exit the building at their convenience. After further investigation, it was later found out through parking lot surveillance cameras that the colonel had been sneaking through the KFC building every night through the same panel on the roof leading to the stockroom. He had been eating our chicken for God knows how long. What makes the story more discomforting was how he would casually jump across the roof and into the KFC bucket sign, just so he could crawl inside and sleep there every night. All I know is that that man is mentally sick in the head and needs to seek some kind of professional help.
Especially, you know, that chicken. Yeah, he's gonna be obese by eating all that chicken.
I used to be friends with this guy who worked at KFC. His name was Jake. I knew
Hey,
him for
Jake.
years throughout school. When we got out, we ended up getting jobs at the same strip mall. I worked at the GameStop just across the parking lot from the KFC he worked at. I could see the Colonel's sign out of the window all day long, so by the end of my shifts, I was usually craving some fried chicken. Plus, it was always nice to stop by and talk to my friend Jake at the register. After I finished work one night, I decided to buy some chicken for dinner and to remind Jake to get on Call of Duty once he got home. I knew he was working that night, and he told me his shift would be ending soon after mine. However, I didn't see him when I walked into the restaurant. Actually, there was hardly anyone in there, except one person behind the register where Jake should have been standing. I'd never seen this guy before. For some reason, he looked out of place behind a fast food counter, like it was his first day or something. He stared at me awkwardly as I approached the
sir?
register.
Can I
To
take my
my
order?
surprise, however, his customer service was more friendly and hospitable than just about anyone I'd ever seen working minimum wage. Good evening, sir. How may I take your order? Have you seen Jake? I wanted to stop by and say hi to him. Oh, Jake's on break, good sir, but I can help you.
No.
On break?
Where's Jake?
It didn't make sense that Jake would wait until the end of his shift to take his only break. I tried to discreetly look behind the guy at the counter and into the kitchen. From what I could see, the kitchen was empty. There was nobody at work back there. No cleaning, no dishwashing going on. Not one sound or sight in the whole place except me and this weird guy. And he didn't even have a name tag. Excuse me, I don't mean to be that guy, but is your manager around? I am the manager, good sir. Yes, it's just me tonight, holding
No.
it down for the customers.
No way.
Why do you ask? Are
Bro,
you
he
interested
just
in
from the
becoming
break,
part of the
bro. You know
KFC
it.
team? Thank you, but no, I'm already employed. I was still wearing my GameStop uniform at the time, so I pointed to my name tag. Ah, well, I see. It's a shame, though. You would have made great fried chicken. Could I just get a 10-piece bucket and a Coke? Sure thing, Flynn. Cash only, by the way. The card reader's broken. I handed him $10 and reluctantly tipped him some quarters from the change he gave me. I felt a little bad for being rude to the guy, but I just felt so much more at ease when he finally walked away. It took him several minutes to come back with my order, even though no other customers came inside or through the drive-thru while I waited. Every one of those minutes was tense. All I wanted to do was get my
You're
fried
better,
chicken,
bro.
go
hiding,
home,
bro.
and play some
obviously
video
hiding
games with
bro.
my
Yeah,
friend,
you're better than
wherever he was. When, at last, I finally got my meal, I grabbed it and rushed out of there.
Bro,
Paying
look how
no
you looking
attention
at
to
him.
the bone-chilling, ear-to-ear grin on that weird guy's
No, I'm
face
out
as
of
he
there,
handed me
man.
the bucket. I sped off in my car and drove home in a rush to get away from him. I changed out of my work clothes in a flash, then got online and ready to game. While I waited for Jake to get on, I started to eat my dinner for the night. 10 delicious pieces of heart-stopping, artery-clogging fried chicken. I remember thinking to myself as I mowed
Is
through
he
the
eating a
pieces,
bone too?
man, this has got to be the best Kentucky
Well, that's
Fried
like
Chicken
bones.
I've ever had. I guess that guy could have been the manager. It's so good. It doesn't even taste like chicken. Maybe it's duck. After a while, I started to slow down.
That's Jake.
Jake
I'm
still had
telling
a
you, I'm
job
calling
on,
you.
and I only had
That's
about
Jake.
3 pieces of chicken left. That's when I noticed something strange at the bottom of the bucket. It was breaded like fried chicken, but it was too small to be that. It was a small rectangular thing. Out of curiosity, I fished it out of the bucket. As soon as I picked it up, all the breading crumbled away, revealing a small piece of white plastic with a pin glued onto it. Did that weird guy lose his name tag in the batter? But
Jake, I'm
when
telling
I
you.
turned it over, the name printed on it was...
He's eating Jake.
Jake! The whole time I've been waiting on him, he was wafting into my nose, getting ground between my teeth, and sliding down into my stomach.
Called it, see?
No, this can't be. I dropped the bucket onto the ground as I trembled at the thought. Was that really Jake? I couldn't believe it. I picked up my phone and called Jake, but there was no answer. I panicked. I quickly called his mom, only to find out that Jake had not come home that night. Damn. Is your finger licking good?
Man, that was crazy, man. I think we all can agree that KFC has some weird and crazy servers. We can all agree with that. I'm not gonna lie. That's why I don't eat at KFC. I used to, but not no more. But yeah, man, that's it for the video, man. And happy late Thanksgiving, I know Thanksgiving over, but you know, glad y'all enjoyed your holiday, Thanksgiving holiday. But stay tuned for the next video, man. Peace.